Don't know who that is, but that's a good signal on 6950. Playing Romeo Void. Girl in Trouble is a temporary thing. A booming signal, usually I'd say that's Wolverine radio, but I've never heard Wolverine on this time of day. It's just 8:15 here in Texas. I think that's 01:15 UTC. That strong signal and thumping audio. Sounds a lot like Wolverine. Right now this is on the RF Systems EMF antenna, and I've just got that thing stretched along the ground because I'm too lazy to toss it up a tree right now. If it was up over a tree, this signal would be around S9, but we'd also be picking up more static because of all the power lines around here. This neighborhood is surrounded by very noisy power lines, street lights, parking lot lights, all kinds of noisemakers. So a long wire antenna just stretched along the ground is usually quieter, and if it's long enough, it gets pretty good reception. In a minute, I'm going to check it out, compare it with this active antenna that Chris sent to try out. Now, this thing's working pretty well on medium wave, but it needs a little bit more antenna than this little stub here for shortwave. This Palstar needs to warm up a bit more on batteries to get the tuning just right. On sideband, sometimes the audio can sound a little wonky. When it's indoors, I usually leave it plugged in. On batteries, it takes 5-10 minutes to warm up where the crystal settles down, so the audio doesn't sound funky. I'm going to wait and see if there's a station ID after this song before I switch antennas. It's one of the few really good shortwave pirate radio signals I've heard before dark this summer. See, the noise pretty low. That's not bad for this neighborhood. Usually the RFI is really high, and it'll get high again after dark. When the parking lot lights and street lights come on, usually wipes out most pirate radio signals unless they're really strong. Alright, well, I'm not hearing any ID, so I'm going to switch antennas now. Alright, this is the active antenna, which is inside this paint can here. And there's a 9-volt battery inside there. Now, one of the theories that I hear a lot about these active antennas is that the feed line itself is just acting as the antenna. So I kept this cable as short as possible. And you can see right now there's no signal coming through. And even with it flipped on, there's really not much of a signal. But if I touch this antenna stub, it wakes up. So this thing's working really well on medium wave, not directional, but it's picking up signals pretty well. And I'm going to clip on, this is just a 6-foot length of wire I've got strung up a tree. So now it's just acting like an active antenna with a whip. And you can hear a lot more noise. You hear a lot more RFI because these vertical antennas in this area, the whip, picks up a lot of RFI. There's power lines right over there, about 30 yards away. a few more of the usual bands here. Usually 6900 lower sideband has some Spanish language QSOs. These guys are regional, so these signals usually come in pretty strong here in Texas. And you can hear some of the usual summer static, and that's emphasized by the vertical antenna. You know, again, that's one advantage to a horizontal grass, snake in the grass, or whatever those kinds of antennas are. Is they kind of minimize the summer static some. This is the station some people are calling old-time radio, but I won't hear anything until it's after dark here. There's CHU. And again, it's needing a little extra wire on this stub here to pick up anything. CHU again, 7850. Now I'm hearing some intermodulation now. So this active antenna with the extra wire is just picking up intermod, probably from WBAP. And you can see, look at that, that's 60 over S9 with this active antenna. And this wire here, that's just way more signal than it really needs.
Yeah, they didn't have anything for that. No barbecue grills on your chimney. What are you going to do? So that stayed up there for a long time. And
even with the attenuation, it only brings it down to plus 40.
Nuts on that kind of stuff. Then I saw this story. Maybe think about this when I saw this.
Yeah, so I'm hearing intermod from WBAP on 820 on 3330. I'm surprised to be getting anything from 2500 this time of day. That's WWV. It's not even dark yet. Nothing without the wire. Compare this with the RF Systems EMF antenna. That's kind of unusual to hear that this time of day. So I can just barely hear it. Picking up a carrier. That's unusual. The active antenna with a little bit of extra wire is actually picking up 2500 better. So this thing right here seems to be doing better on the lower frequencies. That's a local gospel station in the Metroplex. After dark, we're only going to hear WHO in Iowa.
On www.kggram.com. We're streaming live 24.
And again, this is on the RF Systems EMF antenna. Let's switch back to the active antenna.
On www.kggram.com. We're streaming live 24/7, 365, and until.
Signal's a lot weaker without the extra wire. So, a little extra wire does help. Pretty good signal. It won't be directional because, you know, it's just a non-directional active antenna. And with this wire, that's just going to act like an amplified whip.
Me doing me.
Company when I'm
approaching small
UVAP.
Because he has been highly critical of the Islamic State. He's made some...
I'm going to check out the long wave beacons, but I doubt I'm going to hear anything this time of year. Usually I don't hear the beacons until winter. Yeah, this is just all noise and intermod. I used to be able to pick up the beacon from Love Field, but I haven't heard that one for a while. I don't even know if they're doing voice anymore. Yeah. No luck with long wave this time of year.
Everyone's a victim.
Let's check out the aviation weather. So nothing on the active antenna with just the little stub. Let me plug in the wire and see what we get. Okay, so 6604 is coming in fairly well. 100051, 13270, 6750. Sounds like I'm getting some intermod there. 15034. And again, these are all with the active antenna with a little bit of extra wire on there. I'm going to switch back to the RF Systems EMF antenna for comparison. I have an antenna switch, so I'm just going to have to keep plugging and unplugging. There we go. Now, this is with the RF Systems EMF antenna. Good little simple antenna, and it's just a little better than a whip, a little quieter, and it works well just stretched out on the ground, so it's much quieter in neighborhoods like this. So the active antenna with a little bit of extra wire is doing about as well as the RF Systems EMF antenna. I'm going to switch back to 6950, see if that's still on. There we go. Again, this is on the RF Systems EMF antenna right now, which is stretched horizontally along the ground. I'm going to switch back to the active antenna. Picking up a little bit more noise with the active antenna, partly because this extra wire that I've attached to it is vertically oriented. I'm going to try just draping this bit of antenna horizontally and see if it still gets a signal. Yeah, so it's still getting a signal. I don't know if it really makes any difference in attenuating the noise. You know, that kind of summer static is just unavoidable this time of year. I'm going to put that back up the tree. It's getting a little better reception. I can hear a little bit of intermod now breaking through on that active antenna. nothing without the wire attached to it. And here a little intermod, probably from WBAP. It's the strongest in this area, but there's a couple others that are fairly strong. KLIF on 570, and the Hot Pepper, Asian music station on 1220 is in Weatherford, I think, and Mineral Wells, and they're pretty strong in this area, this end of West Fort Worth. Yeah, that intermod is just swamping 6950 now, so I'm going to lower that wire antenna again. Yeah, I reduced the signal quite a bit. And I can also hear some, sounds like scrambled QSOs, maritime maybe, in the background there. $67.70, starting to break through a little bit here, and hear a little bit of a carrier. Not hearing anything on 20 meters. I don't know if the antenna's not picking it up or if there's just nothing going on.
Yo estaba 30 y 40 y llegaste a meterte 30 una ocasión que me afloré.
That's really quiet. Not a lot of background noise there.
Considering the bad conditions, have a pretty good signal up here. I got the radio up to about 200 watts from the from the FT 2000. Have a good evening.
Yeah, nothing without that wire on there.
Kilo 1 Delta Echo Alpha Norway 2 Norway Delta Yankee.
Pretty quiet circuitry though. It's not introducing a lot of noise, which is better than some of the active antennas I've used.
Well worth the wait. Now, the purpose of the wider ASAP.
There's Brother Scare on WDCQ. Brother Scare is usually on 510, 5110, and 7490. I guess Brother Scare pays his radio bills.
One of us is putting me in charge.
$48.50. Well, the active antenna seems to be pretty broadband. It's picking up lots of stuff. Doesn't need to be retuned like some active antennas have had. I used to have a Radio Shack active antenna that had a tuner.
Continued to drop in the first half of the year. However,
very noisy, fussy. That's the first bit of really nasty RFI I'm hearing dialing around. It's one of the aviation or maritime weather frequencies. I think this is aviation.
Flight level 450. Moving north, northeast.
You know, one of the tricks in this neighborhood is if you just walk around with a portable on the whip, you can find some sweet spots in between the power lines where it's fairly quiet.
1000.
So in some cases, it's actually better just to use a whip on a portable. You know, stretching out a lot of wire in this area, you just sometimes just pick up a lot more noise. I've tried all kinds of wire antennas, random wire, dipoles, all kinds of stuff, and generally it just picks up more noise. But if you find a sweet spot like this area of the backyard where it's in between any power lines,
Wind variable at 25.
really not bad. And some of the street lights and parking lot lights are starting to come on now, but it's not interfering too
Heavy
much.
rain, ceiling 1,500.
Let's try the RF Systems EMF antenna again for comparison.
Temperature 10. Dew point 06 hectopascal. Northwest. Update from 0100 Zulu. Wind 240 at 9er.
Been about the same. So the active antenna with a little bit more wire, which right now is stretched out horizontally, it's about 6 foot of wire just stretched out across the ground, is doing about as well as the RF systems, including the noise. This noise kicked up when some of the parking lot lights and street lights came on a little while ago. So the passive RF Systems EMF antenna is not doing any worse.
Pittsburgh from 00150. 3,000 scattered.
There's the usual Spanish language QSOs on 6900 LS lower sideband. And that would be old time radio. Just hearing the carrier right now. That's 6950 again. That is really a good signal. That's probably the best signal I've heard this summer. Haven't heard an ID yet, but find out when I get back inside and check the logs. Now I'm going to switch back to the active antenna for this. Now I've got the active antenna hooked up, wires hooked up to it, but haven't turned it on yet. There we go. So as long as we clip a little wire to it, a little extra wire, it's doing okay. I haven't asked Chris yet what kind of design this is. I don't know if it's the PA0RDT or another variation. There are several variations of active antenna amplifiers out there. And I'll get some close-ups of the inside of that later on. It's a very simple design inside a paint can. Hey, how are you? Sure. Okay. Let me turn this off.